Hey guys, this is Charlotte, and you're watching Going In Raw.
This is the glorious one, Bobby Roode, and you're watching Going In Raw.
Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And now you're watching Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling.
What's going on with all that? Your voice was fine this morning. I guess you went too far. See, here's the issue. You did the whole intro by yourself this morning. You should have saved yourself. Now your voice is spent. We have this whole dirt sheet episode to get through, and you can't talk. This is an issue. Maybe not. Maybe I'll do all the talking. I'll do all the reporting and all the analysis.
You got it, boss.
Yeah, I don't really want to do all that. You're here. You better make yourself useful while you're here. Anyways, I'll do the intro. This is Going In Raw. This is the Dirt Sheet News Program.
We don't call it Dirt Sheet anymore. It's not even a thing anymore.
I do.
Well, just because you put the notes in the Dirt Sheet folder.
Yeah, it's differentiated between the recap shows, and then there's Matt Chat, which is the debate show.
It's just our podcast.
I understand. But for me, I like to differentiate things just for myself, so I know where things go. I'll try to be organized. I don't have a huge folder full of just various notes with a date on it.
This place is not organized.
Yeah, I'm going to change all that in the coming weeks.
You ain't gonna do shit.
You don't think so, huh?
I don't.
What were we talking about beforehand? You want to go get a refrigerator, and I'm like, yeah, we got to get storage too.
Yeah, I'm leaving. Hey, I'll put it this way: we have the business card. I am leaving storage to you.
All right.
You can make the decisions with regard to storage. Tomorrow I'm coming in and working my art project some more.
Good.
And get some editing done.
Good.
That's what I'm doing.
I'll worry about storage.
You worry about storage
and storing things.
I don't care, man. We have a whole other room over there. I just throw crap in there.
Yeah, then I spent like half an afternoon breaking down boxes and got them all put together. So I need to find a place to drop off cardboard so I can get it recycled.
Oh, I'm sure they have a dumpster out here.
Yeah, that's for trash, man.
Yeah, it's trash.
No, that's perfectly good cardboard we can take somewhere to get recycled. What kind of
There's no we involved in that, dude.
What kind of California liberal elitist are you?
There's a line that I draw.
You don't recycle?
That line, no, I actually don't. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's kind of disappointing to hear.
Really kind of not ashamed about it either.
Really?
Yeah, no, I don't.
All right.
There's a big giant bag of, you've been to my house like every day.
I don't really pay attention to like your refuse containers.
You've never noticed that we don't recycle?
Well, sometimes on top of, like next to your garbage can, on top of the kitchen counter, there looks like the recyclable things there, like a milk jug or...
This happens to be garbage.
All right. That's where I always put my recyclables. Now I know.
Yeah, no.
That if there's anything that needs to be recycled, I need to take it with me and take it to the proper place.
I don't need that level of decision making. Is this recyclable? Is it not recyclable? I don't know what it is. It's all trash.
And you look on the bottom of it, and I'll have a little logo.
What the hell?
Yeah.
I'm not looking at the bottom of anything.
Oh, my goodness.
I'll look at the bottom of a garbage can when I'm throwing my garbage away.
You need to be a better California liberal elitist, Steve.
Plenty of avocado, and
That just makes you Californian.
Oh, there you go. Anyways,
this is Going In Raw. It can be found at youtube.com/Steven Larson.
That's true.
Also, wherever fine podcasts are available, including CastBox. We got a partnership with them. Check out CastBox. Great app. We're also on the Patreon at patreon.com/Steven Larson. All sorts of contribution tiers with outstanding rewards associated with each tier. Steve, give me a contribution tier, if you will, please.
$20.
$20. You get the Friendo Care Package.
True.
Comic book. Poster. Makes you make a difficult, actually not the difficult decision.
So many
Top
things.
notch is the right answer. You get a poster with Top Notch and Mecha Stan on it. Stickers, a postcard. I mentioned comic book. I think that's everything.
Oh, it's great. I know. I got to get the little image here of all of the comic book stuff.
We're also at Pro Wrestling Tees at prowrestlingtees.com/goinginraw.
Here are two of our list. So there is a shirt with this new logo on it. There is a shirt
that just says Friendo on it.
Yeah.
That didn't work.
That's odd. Why would that not have worked? That's interesting. I don't know why that didn't work.
Didn't work anyways. We have the I Find It Funny shirt.
I Find It Funny.
As well as a Going In Raw logo type shirt that's very bright and colorful. That has our faces on it.
Yes, it's called Colorful in Raw.
Mm-hmm.
I was just dicking around. But hey, it was a big seller during the big sale.
Yes.
So well done.
Yes. Good job, Steve. What?
I'm just curious as to why I click on the little
Every
eyeball.
once in a while we do, we try to do things and it doesn't end up working on here, man. I'll tell you.
So confusing.
Anyways, we're here to talk about the news. This is the Dirt Sheet, Steve. Friday Dirt Sheet.
We don't call it that anymore.
All right, well,
I'm
I do.
gonna throw up.
Yeah, man. We had a large lunch.
What a terrible start we made.
What do you mean a terrible start? I'm shocked to learn that you don't recycle.
Really?
That's really surprising to me.
Weird.
I thought just like most people did that.
No, man. I don't think most people do, to be honest with you. Yeah, no, I don't do that.
All right.
Anyways.
You know, in some municipalities, you don't have to.
Oh, I know why. Oh, I must have just put it on that little thing. And the little thumb drive isn't in here.
Some municipalities, you just toss all your stuff in one can and they separate it for you.
So the only time we recycle is when we have like a lot of cardboard from like, Christmas or whatever.
Yeah.
Then I'll dump all that stuff in the recycling garbage can.
Yeah.
Simply because it doesn't take up
space in your normal garbage can.
Right. So when it's convenient for me, I'll recycle. I think it's great that you do. That's awesome that you do. I don't care that I don't. I don't feel ashamed because I don't recycle. I've got a lot of people in my house, and it would just, here's the thing. When you have that many people in your house that make that much of a mess, if I have a recycling bin, they're going to consider, like, do you think Devin knows the difference? Do you think Devin's going to look at the bottom? No, he's going to be like, hey, I've got this cheeseburger I don't want the rest of because I'm finicky with my food. I'm just going to throw it in whatever bin that I see.
I wasn't trying to pass a judgment on you, man, or
No,
shame you.
well, you kind of were.
That was sarcasm.
You kind of were, but I don't really care. But yeah, no, it would be too much of a mess, man. I would feel bad for the people that are like separating that stuff. It'd be terrible.
How often do you think you buy something in a can that has got like essence of cheeseburger in it?
Wait, what's that?
Like like I don't buy soda. Do you still buy soda? Like canned soda?
Not that often.
All right,
but I have. Yeah.
In a hypothetical, say I go and buy a can of soda from the food place down the street here.
Food place, yeah.
Yeah. And what percentage of that can do you think is cheeseburger or some sort of food item that got tossed in the recycle bin?
Well,
and got recycled with the aluminum.
I'm telling you, man, if it was up to Devin, it'd be 100%.
All right.
You'd be drinking your soda out of a cheeseburger.
Yes.
Let's talk about this first story. It has to do with
wrestling
TV
news.
negotiations.
I know, exciting stuff, but this is potentially exciting, or it could be
a game changer for the WWE.
Yes, thank you. So a website called TherezOwens.com. I have never heard of this website before.
Okay, good to know.
So I don't know how reliable it is, if it is reliable at all. Is reporting that the UFC could soon strike a TV deal with NBC and ESPN, saying, quote, this deal is worth a total of $320 million a year, so $160 million for each broadcast outlet. ESPN and NBC would pay for production of UFC productions. I guess currently UFC takes care of that. And ESPN and NBC will also have streaming rights, and the Fight Pass prelims moving to their streaming platforms. And then there will be fewer pay-per-views, reduced from 12 to 6.
Yeah, none of that really matters. I don't care about the UFC. But this does bring up a big question. The USA Network, which currently airs Raw and SmackDown, is owned by NBC Universal. They obviously, they have a lot of money to throw around. However, if this rumor is true and UFC does move to NBC or ESPN, or God forbid, USA Network, what does that mean?
Not going to USA, it'd be on NBC or NBC Sports.
Well, you never know. I mean, they might want to start. You're not in the business meetings. They own USA, right?
Yeah.
So it's a channel they can do whatever.
Apart from the Olympics, though, I don't believe
USA. They can do whatever they want to do.
USA owns any or airs any sports.
They used to air the. Are you kidding me? They used to air the dog show.
I said sports.
Yeah, I know. I heard you. Sports, dog shows. That's a sport.
No.
You don't think it's a sport?
No.
You don't think those dogs have to perform? Physical acts?
They have to walk.
That's a sport, man. They have to go through stuff.
Man, you have a very generous definition of sport then.
Obstacle courses.
No, that's not a dog show thing, man.
Dog, really?
No, that's a separate thing.
Dog show?
Dog shows, you take your dog, they do their lap, you
Yeah.
put them on the little pedestal so the judge can come look at it, lift up its tail,
Look,
and then it
man,
moves on to the next dog.
Dog shows are more of a sport than NASCAR is, I'll tell you what. Anyways, moving on.
Anyway, so yes, you're almost on the verge of bringing up a point, which is if NBC obtains broadcast rights for at least part of UFC's product, is that going to change their philosophy in terms of potentially retaining WWE to air on the USA Network?
In other words,
we've heard in the past that Fox was interested in acquiring broadcast rights for WWE's product, potentially airing Monday Night Raw on Fox, the broadcast network, which would be a huge, massive opportunity for WWE to expand their audience. Anyway, what were you going to say?
Okay, well, they might have so it's NBC Universal. They have tons and tons and tons of money, in the billions upon billions of billions.
Yes.
So they can spend whatever they want on whatever they want. However, acquiring the UFC, number one, is probably not going to be cheap. I don't know. I mean, there's no indication as to how much they're going to be paying for it.
Yeah, there is.
Oh, $320 million a year. Oh my God.
But that's for each network. 160 for NBC, 160 for ESPN.
Okay. So, okay.
Again, if this report is accurate.
All right. So that's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. It's not quite the 400 that we had heard that UFC was trying to get.
Yes.
But that might. I mean, you know, I'm not sure exactly how they would. They might be parsing their budget for a certain type of programming, which there's two things going on, which WWE might overlap with UFC. So they might only be willing to spend what they spent last time, $160 million per year on the WWE. And we know that Fox has been a suitor for WWE. So it might give, you know, NBC Universal less leverage to offer WWE what they really want, especially if Fox is over here waiting to match that offer.
Here's another angle to look at it potentially that NBC Universal may realize, all right, WWE's out the door. We need to obtain the rights to some combat sport to fill that niche on our programming schedule across our family of networks.
Right.
So maybe, again,
so you think that might be tipping the hand saying, okay, well, we know
could be.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, it could be any number one of those scenarios. Because WWE is already, you know, they're already. So I think they have to talk to NBC Universal first.
Yeah, their contract expires next year.
But they still did their.
And I think NBC has like a negotiating window, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. They have a negotiating window. So, you know, the bottom line is, I mean, this has sort of been speculated on over the past, you know, year or so. You know, are we going to see, and especially getting closer to the now, are we going to see Monday Night Raw on broadcast TV on the Fox network, pared down to 2 hours? Where is SmackDown going to land?
Probably Fox Sports.
That would be terrible. That'd be awful to have one show on.
Oh, I know.
Unless they did some reprogramming of those, like some I don't know, formatting, but if they took a different approach to both shows, like Raw would truly be their A show, but then bring that down to 2 hours. Eesh.
Yeah, especially with the depth of talent they have right now.
I know.
It would be rough.
Yeah, it would be rough. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be really interesting. It's going to be, you know, I like the way things are now. I mean, do I think that creatively speaking, Raw would probably be better at 2 hours? Probably. But you do run into that huge problem that they have so much talent that they really, Raw kind of needs that third hour. I mean, we see how much talent is coming into NXT, and they're all in a year from now going to be at the very latest 2 years from now
on Raw or SmackDown. Yeah,
you know, and then NXT is going to be reloading as well. So, yeah, I don't know. They're going to have a lot of decisions to make.
Yes,
obviously.
Yes,
and I think it'd be really fun to see what they could do with a 2 hour Raw. I mean, every episode theoretically. Like when SmackDown was firing on all cylinders.
Oh, that was great television.
It was great television, you know. I mean, and Raw's creative has been really good lately.
Yeah.
So to see that compressed into a 2 hour show would be something else. I mean, there was also the report that we read that Fox and NBC and Universal, the network of channels, were looking at paring down the numbers of commercials.
Yeah, and just raising the price per commercial. And
right, exactly.
And doing more. I don't know if focus testing is the right term, but
so right now in a 3 hour episode of Raw, there's three 40-minute segments basically.
44 minutes, yeah.
44 minutes.
You get 44 minutes of actual content per hour.
What's 44 times 3? 100.
Be about an hour and a half, about 2 hours and 15 minutes.
2 hours. So we probably get 2 hours and so. I mean, if they were really efficient with their time, chances are we'd lose out on 25-minute matches. You know, I doubt we'd get many more of those.
The first thing to be cut would be the length of matches, because you go back to 2 hour Raws previously. Very rarely did you get a match lasting longer than 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Unless it was some special thing.
And I really doubt. Yeah, and I mean they would have to chop recaps.
A lot of them, yeah.
You know, and if you do that, then you're chopping a huge chunk of time. I mean, and you have room for a lot of good talent. So I'm sure they'll find a way. And to be honest, creatively, it'd probably make the product better. I just hate to hear I hate to see what the ratings on SmackDown would be. And the thing about that, if you move SmackDown over to Fox Sports, I wonder if that would make. I don't know. I don't know. WWE would then have, I mean, if this happens and they get $300 million a year, they'd have a lot more money to spend on talent.
Yeah.
So I don't think people would necessarily complain, but you might hear about people on SmackDown wanting to be on the big show. SmackDown at that point would truly be the B show, but it might also be the cult show that people really want to tune into.
Yeah, and we said this before, where if they make Raw kind of the more mainstream show,
the marquee show, yeah,
SmackDown more focused on the actual in-ring product, then that could be a way to do it. Like if you can have Raw, which is the show that appeals to mainstream audiences, and then the other end of that spectrum, you have NXT, which is predominantly focused on in-ring product. If they can find a decent balance between those two sides of the spectrum for SmackDown, where it's still story-driven, but by and large is focused on what's going on in the ring versus storylines backstage, that could be an effective use of SmackDown, I think. Kind of make it, in terms of how the wrestling is integrated to the show, NXT light, so to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So still wrestling focused, just not as much as NXT. So there's differentiation between the brands still.
You know what they could do?
What?
You know what they could do? They could end the brand split.
I'd be really surprised they did that at this point.
Me too, but
because that's going to lead to even more people not being on TV.
No, not necessarily. Here's the thing. No, if you end the brand splits, because here's the thing. If they do that, if they have Raw on Fox and SmackDown on a completely different channel, obviously on a different day, in order for SmackDown not to be the B show, you have your A-stars feature on Raw, but they could also pop up on SmackDown.
I know. Just think of the last time they were doing the Raw SmackDown Super shows, and you were just seeing the same 15 people on both shows for the most part.
Yeah, but they were doing that wrong. I mean, they were just doing that wrong. If you use SmackDown, if you say, okay, so you have Braun's story on Raw, and yeah, I don't know. I'll put it this way. If you have 4 hours of TV to work with, and you have the same number of superstars that could show up on either program, it would maybe then entice people to go over to SmackDown and watch it on Fox Sports.
I understand that if you could have Strowman, Reigns, Seth, AJ, Finn Balor, Nakamura across that 4 hours of television. But the advantage of having the brand split now is 1 day a week. You don't have to focus on all of them. You focus on half on one show, half on the other. So everybody gets their time. Whereas I just go back to the old super shows where they were merging the shows, got rid of the brand split. And then you just have the same 15 people on both shows. And very, very rarely would anybody not amongst the top upper mid-card or mid-card would ever get any TV time.
Yeah.
Because, of course, if they're worried about ratings, they want to put the most popular wrestlers on there.
No, I know. I mean, and you're right. I know. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be a mess. Anyways. Let's see here. Moving on. Let's talk about this. Speaking of
superstar shakeup.
Superstars being shaken up.
So there's some rumors afoot about what could possibly happen or at least backstage for the upcoming superstar shakeup happening next week, next Monday and Tuesday. PW Insiders reporting that, quote, it appears that just about every major star on the SmackDown roster will be backstage at this Monday's Raw in Hartford, Connecticut, kicking off the 2-day superstar shakeup. They add there's no SmackDown house show scheduled for that Monday.
Oh, interesting.
Thus making everybody available to be backstage at Raw. So I don't know if this means they're just telling everybody to be there because they don't know what they're going to do, or if they're just telling everybody to be there to I don't know, to make it like a big party or something. I don't know. Everybody together.
They might do the kind of thing where at the beginning of Raw they have everybody out on the stage and they do the same thing at SmackDown, maybe something like that.
Yeah, who knows?
And then Wrestling Inc. is reporting that Asuka is being advertised for a SmackDown live event Sunday, June 10th in Tupelo, Mississippi.
Yeah, so that would seem to indicate, granted, card is always subject to change.
Yeah.
Seem to indicate that Asuka might be going from Raw to SmackDown.
Right, but the thing is, like, 9 times out of 10 when they advertise somebody in advance, okay, so like, if a pay-per-view is coming up and AJ's a champion and he's advertised still as the champion on an event 2 months down the line, people say, oh, well, is that a clue? No, they just say whoever's champion now and put him on the promotional material. Yeah. But obviously Vince can wake up Sunday morning and want to put the belt on Kurt Hawkins or whatever. So,
But this is slightly different because
this is different.
This is Asuka being on a completely different brand.
Because usually what happens is it's still the people that are on the brand now.
Yes.
You know, and so Asuka being that's where there's smoke, there's some fire.
Yeah, it could be.
So
Let us predict.
Yeah, let's
of
do
those
this.
wrestlers who are going to be backstage at Raw on Monday, who are going to remain on Monday Night Raw? Who?
Okay, guaranteed to remain on Monday Night Raw is Roman Reigns.
No, I'm saying SmackDown stars are guaranteed to remain are going to stay on Monday Night Raw once they show up next Monday.
Oh, who are gonna? Okay, so who from SmackDown's going to Raw?
Yeah,
Baron Corbin.
Baron Corbin, you think?
That's a definite.
Either Naomi or Natalia. I feel like.
Yeah, because they had that match that didn't really. Yeah, okay.
Bob Roode.
Bobby Roode showing up on Raw. I could totally see that. He's there to make Raw glorious. Yes.
I can see that happening.
That means there's got to be some pressure release from the Intercontinental Championship scene. Probably the biggest thing would be Finn going to SmackDown. I kind of feel like that might be the case. But, I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing. You can't look, because I was going to say, you know, Finn came out and he officially challenged Seth for the IC title. That doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot because chances are today's Thursday. Superstar Shakeup happens on Monday. Do they have a set list?
No. And also,
I'd be surprised they even had it in pencil.
Miz gets his rematch. He's got a rematch clause. So he's already said he wants the rematch at Backlash.
Yeah.
So Finn has to wait till after all that plays out before he can have his match.
Yeah. True.
At least in theory. So Finn could get sent to SmackDown.
Finn gets sent to SmackDown. That's a possibility. Samoa Joe is already lined up for Roman Reigns. That could change.
I'd be surprised.
But I'd be surprised
they're already
too.
advertising live events with that matchup.
We do probably need a heel to take over the Baron spot in SmackDown, on SmackDown. I mean, Shinsuke's heel turn could serve as that.
And also I mentioned on the show the other day that the addition of Daniel Bryan to the SmackDown roster.
Kind of an addition.
That's a massive addition, yeah.
Yeah.
But then they also are, the possibility exists that they could still be losing Owens and Zayn.
If Asuka's going to SmackDown, I could see Charlotte heading to Raw.
If they're setting up for Charlotte Rousey next year at Mania.
Yeah.
Then I'd also feel like they need to bring over someone else from the Raw Women's division to SmackDown.
Yeah, Becky, Bayley Lynch, Sasha Banks are all kind of up for grabs. I mean, Becky Lynch and they could still do the thing because Backlash is a co-branded pay-per-view. They could still wrap up.
Like they did with, was it Payback last year?
Yeah,
it was Payback last year.
They could still wrap up like storylines that are existing and still do the shake-up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Finn's a big name. I think Baron would be a relatively, I mean, he hasn't really been doing much of lately, but given a good push, you know, I could see him being a major player on Raw.
Yeah.
I don't really see Braun going anywhere.
No, I don't see Braun going anywhere. I don't see AJ going anywhere, and I don't see Roman going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, AJ and Nakamura, they have a lot of unfinished business, so I don't
see Daniel Bryan going anywhere.
Yeah, he's probably not going anywhere. Although they did have that match, and I'm hoping what you said is true, that they're just doing that to bring Daniel Bryan into the Shinsuke Nakamura story and AJ Styles. But I don't know.
Well, it's entirely possible. But I would still contend that they're not going to bring anybody that could easily surpass Roman Reigns' popularity onto Raw. They're still trying to make him the top guy.
I don't know, man. If you bring Finn, but again, Finn, I mean, you're with Shinsuke turning heel. If Finn were to come over, you kind of accomplish two things with that heel turn. Mm-hmm. There's a face spot open, which Daniel Bryan then fills, but then Finn comes over. I don't know, man. Daniel Bryan might head to Raw.
Yeah, I guess it's possible.
If Finn comes over, I mean
he's a new plan B. Should they completely ditch the Roman experiment?
Oh, who, Daniel Bryan?
Yeah.
Boy,
I mean, I think he should be plan A. I think they should say, all right, Roman, it's been cool.
I agree.
You got someone here that we know is insanely over who could be the face of the company.
I absolutely agree. But no, I think Charlotte's probably going to move to Raw. And then who would she have to feud with over there? Bayley or Sasha. That could take some time. Ember Moon, Nia Jax. That's right. They could do all that while Ronda Rousey's still dealing with the Authority.
All leading to Mania 35.
Yeah. There you go. We've booked it. Good job.
Booked it. Done.
Good job.
It's almost like we book Raw.
What good idea did you have yesterday that I said write down for We Book Raw?
Didn't write it down.
Episode. We didn't write it down.
Didn't write it down.
Please don't touch that.
I didn't mean to. I didn't intend to do that. Moving on further into this list of news here on Dirt Sheet.
Yes. Don't call it that. We're not a dirt sheet.
What am I supposed to call it?
Going in Raw. It's the name of the show.
Weekly regurgitation?
Yeah.
All right. Courtesy of Wrestling Observer himself, Dave Meltzer, we have some updates potentially on Brock Lesnar's contract situation and the finish of the Mania match he had against Roman Reigns.
There's some interesting stuff here. So, according to Wrestling Observer, Lesnar signed a new deal at a higher rate and that it wasn't an extension of his current deal. He was unsure if the deal is just for one more match, but that will obviously get a better sense after the end of that match. I'm talking about the largest Royal Rumble match. On what his immediate future is. The plan is to bring back Lesnar. The plan to bring back Lesnar was made on the Go Home Raw, and that deal was made, made that day, but was signed on Mania Sunday prior to the match.
That's crazy. Additionally, Reigns didn't find out about the change of the finish of his WrestleMania main event until he arrived at the venue the day of. Meltzer added, quote, "The plan is still to go with Reigns as champion at some point, but everyone knew if he won the title at Mania, the crowd was going to boo it heavily, though he doesn't know if the title will, in fact, switch hands at the largest Rumble." I mean, why did this just dawn on Vince now? It's been 3 years in the making.
What the heck?
I mean, you had 3 years to correct course, to find a way to get this guy over, and barring a couple instances where he actually flirted with a good idea and got the reception he probably wanted with Reigns, he hasn't done anything.
Okay.
Other than just have him take a bunch of finishers and kick out and win.
Let me proffer this to you, right? The largest Royal Rumble deal is relatively new. We only found out about it a month ago, right?
Month and a half ago, something
so
like that.
So that whole deal is kind of new, right? They got pushed all this money. Hey, largest Royal Rumble, we wanted to make it a very big deal.
I mean, I said it all week. Mania is essentially the go-home show for largest Royal Rumble.
Yeah, right. But what if, up until whenever, Sunday or whatever, Saturday, they were thinking to themselves, okay, man, we got to do this Roman Reigns. There's nothing really we can do. What if they get some report about, let's say they're trying to figure out what merchandise should we ship all the way over there to Saudi Arabia, right?
They find out that Roman is exceptionally popular. I understand that. Nonetheless, if this is a storyline you've been building up to for an entire year, not to mention the 2 years prior to that, to have the coronation of Reigns at the main event of WrestleMania, you have 3 years. 3 years to do something so the crowd doesn't boo the heck out of the match.
Let me ask you something. Is it a coronation if the crowd is booing the heck out of the match? It's not a coronation if everybody in the coronation is booing you.
Oh, I
don't know the exact definition of the word coronation.
No, coronation is just when you're
being crowned.
Like top guy, yeah.
I don't think the peasants, well, I don't know.
I mean, if they started throwing tomatoes at the new king, they would be, done away with pretty quickly.
Coronations look way cooler if a bunch of people are cheering in the crowd.
I understand that. But I'm not saying...
Because you kill a couple different birds. You kill a couple different birds with one stone. If they did find out that in Saudi Arabia, Roman Reigns is insanely over, which I find hard to believe, but you never know. I mean, why else would they do it like this? So you find that out, okay? That's the initial premise. And the plan was WrestleMania. So everyone thinks Brock Lesnar is leaving after Mania, right? Everybody thinks, okay, this is predictable. Roman's going to win. But that's like where all our confidence points were. Roman's going to win. Brock's going to go away. That's how it's going to go. Now we have an opportunity to swerve everybody and get to claim that we're unpredictable, which I think Vince McMahon likes. We get to swerve all the betting odds sites, all the dirt sheets, everybody. We get to swerve them all.
It's not that interesting of a swerve, though.
And make a huge splash for Saudi Arabia, who we really want their money again. I don't know how much money they got, but it had to have been...
Oh, it's a ton.
Take a ballpark guess. You think more than $10 million?
That was my initial gut. It's $10 million. But I don't know.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's essentially, it's like free money, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I know they have to spend a bunch on production, but chances are, it's probably $10 million plus,
plus gate. Plus a portion of the gate, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think, when you have an opportunity presented that, look, man, it's never going to be perfect, but do you really want to be closing out WrestleMania just with a sea of boos?
No, you don't. I understand that aspect of it, but at the same time, you've had time, you've had opportunity, and if let's imagine this largest Royal Rumble deal never happened. Say it fell through, or if it does happen, say it happens like after SummerSlam.
Yeah.
So they have to go through with this, and the creative remains the same. Do you think that match actually main events the show, or do they main event it with the Rousey match? Because that's not going to get... I understand they don't want to end WrestleMania with the crowd crapping all over the match. I understand that. Because that's what happened at WrestleMania 32. That's what could happen at WrestleMania 31. And it took The Undertaker apparently retiring for it not to happen at WrestleMania 33.
But my thing is, let me ask you this. Doing it the way they're doing it, giving us Reigns versus Lesnar at the largest Royal Rumble, gives them a pretty damn good shot. This is like a big deal, right? And it's essentially a lot of free money. Why wouldn't they do that? Like, you're business people. I get that, like, you know, you want the crowd to be happy and everything, and I get that you want your moment, and you've been planning this. You've been planning it forever, but hey, you have an opportunity here to check off a lot of boxes, and one of those boxes is make a lot of money. Why wouldn't you do it? Like, I feel like the cons vastly outweigh the pros. I'm sorry, the pros vastly outweigh the cons.
No, I understand all that. I mean, I'm not debating necessarily the rationale of pushing it, given this current circumstances, pushing it to the largest Rumble. I'm just saying you had a say in all the variables that could have affected how the audience would react to the end of that match, and they seemingly, apart from a couple instances, did nothing to deviate from whatever Vince had in his mind Roman needed to be. You had 3 years to do something different, but they never really did.
Well, yeah,
consistently. Dude. That's the larger issue.
Yeah.
Because even after this match, when Reigns comes back, the first Raw, and he's holding up that belt, you think the crowd's going to love him? No. They're going to boo the hell out of him. Yeah. So it's a temporary fix to a long-term problem.
Well, yeah, but it's a temporary fix that, you know...
I'm not talking about the money aspect. I'm talking about strictly the creative aspect of it and how Reigns being Universal Champ here is going to be received. Whether he wins it...
Vince has never cared about that.
Well, he should.
He's
because
never cared about it.
If he continues to mortgage the entire future of the company on this one guy and the crowd just doesn't embrace him, I'm not saying it's going to turn people away from the product entirely, but it's going to make people far less enthusiastic about it, at least certain portions of the show. Yeah. And enough for him to deviate from his plans.
Yeah, I know, dude. But come on, that's been the same thing for over 3 years now. That's been like the same. We know that. Like, come on, we know that. But if the question is, like, what the hell's with this largest Royal Rumble business?
Oh, they're going all out.
Like,
I know.
I mean, the crazy thing is, no, I don't know. I don't know. It is weird. You have to feel for Roman Reigns. Dude.
Oh man, I feel terrible for him. He's busting his tail. He's doing the best he probably can.
How is he not an emotional wreck?
I know. He wakes up Sunday morning going to the
not have gray hairs
Superdome
everywhere,
thinking, "This is it. It's finally going to happen." I mean, I'm sure he knows. I mean, he's well aware of the reaction he gets at shows. But
you think he cares?
I would like to think so.
Maybe.
But anyways, he probably thinks, okay, well, Brock and I can turn this around. We'll put on a heck of a match and we'll get the crowd behind me. And then he shows up.
Let me ask you something. This is kind of a bigger question for me at this point. Reading this, Brock Lesnar signs a bigger deal Sunday.
Day of Mania, yeah.
Isn't he like super geeked and super inspired to put on a good match? And instead he comes out there and drops a giant turd?
This is Brock Lesnar we're talking about, man.
Goldberg Lesnar was fun.
Because it was 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
And because it was just spot.
Well, that's what this was. Spot.
No, this was finisher.
Even better.
No.
Oh, yeah, man.
No, I watched the match with you right here Sunday. It was not better. Because there's no drama involved in any of that match.
No. I'm not saying the match was better. I'm saying why didn't Brock... Look, man, we know Brock... Look at Brock versus AJ Styles. Brock can put on a good match.
Yeah, that was mostly AJ.
Why wasn't he like inspired to do something cool?
I don't know.
Just the booking in the match was terrible.
It was terrible. It's all up to the whims of Brock, I think. If he's into it, I wonder if it's literally the day he wakes up. If he's into it, he'll put forth the necessary effort to make it interesting. But if he wakes up and he's like,
Yeah, but signing a couple more, like getting a couple million more dollars.
I don't think that's going to motivate him.
That's not going to do anything.
No, it's just he's
buy more land, though, man.
I'm sure he has a ton of land.
So, do you think he has enough? Let me ask you this: do you think his land extends from his porch as far as the eye can see?
Well, as far as his eye can see from his porch, yes.
Right, the eye. Generally, human speaking.
Yes, I know, but this is his land, this is his porch, so his eye, yes.
Right.
Maybe
yeah.
his eyesight's not the best, so it can only extend so far.
So, like, there's probably not mountains in the distance because you're not going to own mountains.
He could.
You think he wants to own mountains?
I don't know.
Probably not.
My understanding is that his land is used for farming, and generally speaking, you don't farm on mountains.
You know what is interesting? So I've researched this.
All right.
The horizon would be the same if the Earth was flat than if it wasn't. Because that's kind of an interesting question. If the Earth was actually flat, what would the horizon look like? Would it look any different? No, it looked the same.
From the ground, no. But isn't it once you get higher up, then you start to see the curvature of the Earth?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not saying the Earth is flat. I'm just saying there's questions.
You're really fascinated by the idea of the Earth being flat, though.
No, you know what? I used to be really angry at flat earthers because how dare you? But now I don't care. Now I think it's hilarious and good for them for wanting something different in their universe. Flat planets. Maybe people just really like pancakes and they just want everything to look like a pancake.
Planets orbiting around a flat sun like a bunch of frisbees circling each other.
What would a flat sun look like? Is that part of flat Earth theory? I
don't know.
Stars are flat too?
I just assume that every body in the universe that we believe, based on science, is round, they may think is flat.
Flat sun theory.
That might be a separate thing, though. I want to know how it relates to flat Earth theory.
Me too. See? Oh, I love it. Frequently asked questions from the Flat Earth Society. This is a whole. Oh, look at that. It's great. What is that even?
So wait, is the sun flat then?
Let's say.
Here, I'll go on the next story. You can look into that. Interrupt me when you find an answer. More largest Royal Rumble news, according to Pro Wrestling Insider. Quote, former WWE champion Rey Mysterio is heading to Saudi Arabia for the greatest Royal Rumble on April 27th. They have confirmed.
Okay, so I'm going to stop looking at this to get back to the wrestling news, but I just want to share this headline with you from express.co.uk. This is how flat earthers explain the solar eclipse. Quote, the sun hologram needs updating.
Oh, so they think the sun's a hologram?
That sounds amazing. Whatever it is, the sun being a hologram, what a groundbreaking theory. What a bunch of idiots. Anyways, what are we talking about now?
Rey Mysterio at largest Royal Rumble.
Oh, that's cool. That's good. Right on. So his arm is healed. Right.
Well, at least enough to be in a battle royal.
Well, I could be in a battle royal. Yeah, and then this next one is a bummer. Rusev, who I was very excited was going to be taking on Undertaker in the biggest match of his career, right?
I know.
Is not going to be taking on the Undertaker and says it's going to be Chris Jericho.
Yes, go ahead.
So WWE.com announced it. They had Lana. Lana took to Twitter to provide some, as you put it here, kayfabe cover for the change.
Yes.
Saying, quote, all over the world, little boys and girls are celebrating Rusev Day. They smile for the greatest superstar ever. I've already spoke with WWE officials to change that match because I refuse to let my husband, Rusev, compete in a casket match at WWE Greatest Royal Rumble. Happy Rusev Day. Let me ask you something. If Rusev and Lana were pissed off about this, granted, they kind of probably do what the WWE tells them to do.
Well, yeah, they're still employed, and they probably want to keep their jobs. Although if Rusev did apparently ask his release, maybe.
Would she have tweeted this out? Could they make her do that? Could they be like, hey, you need to tweet this shit out?
That I don't know. I don't know if they have some clause in their contract where they have to do promotional services for the WWE via their social media.
Because here's the thing. It's a very, okay, I could see if they said, hey, you need to tweet this out. I could see, somebody doing, a half-ass tweet, right? Oh, is that public?
Yeah.
Nice. Good
done.
Well done. But this, the word refuse is all caps. It looks like a very well-written, very enthusiastic tweet. So I'm thinking one of two things. Either number one, Rusev is going to win some title there. I don't know what. I think, isn't there all the titles on the line or
all
something?
the titles are up for grabs.
What's the United States Championship match?
Well, Jinder versus TBA.
TBA could be Rusev.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, Rusev might be winning the greatest Royal Rumble.
Largest Royal Rumble.
Sorry, the largest Royal Rumble.
We can't call it the greatest until we see
You're
how
right.
it plays out.
Yeah, but
It's
technically
really
it's the
good.
largest.
Yes, yeah. Without question,
It has
the
to
largest.
beat what again?
The best one.
Yeah, what's the best one again?
The one where HBK and British Bulldog started 1-2 and lasted until the very end. That was great.
Pretty great one.
92 when Flair won the title. That was
Oh,
pretty
that's
good.
a great one because it's a title win.
Yeah.
Triple H
Several-
winning the title was pretty great too.
There've been several great ones,
No?
but we have to wait to see how this one plays out. Whether
Well,
to
come on,
decide
it's
if it
not-
actually is the greatest.
If Rusev wins, that's got to qualify for greatest.
Yeah, it'd be pretty neat.
Right? And Daniel Bryan's in it.
And Braun.
And Braun and
I mean, it's 50 superstars in it. Pretty much everybody has to be in it.
right, Rey Mysterio's in it. It could actually be the greatest.
On paper right now, maybe, but
And if Rusev wins it,
we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Daniel Bryan's going to win it. Daniel Bryan or Braun. They're gonna
depends,
win it.
man. What if that same info they got about Roman Reigns came in and they're like, "Hey, Dad, we noticed something also. The demographics, the Saudi Arabians are huge into Rusev Day. They've made it an official holiday. Now it's real over there. I say Rusev goes over in the greatest Royal Rumble, and we make it for the Universal Championship and WWE Championship."
Oh, wow.
All right, Larson. Anyways, moving on.
Moving on. It's
all ridiculous.
Tuesday saw the premiere on HBO of a new documentary about Andre the Giant.
Hey, speaking of great Royal Rumble winners, let's talk about Andre the Giant. He didn't actually win any of the Royal Rumbles, but according to the documentary, he was a big-time winner of a lot of Battle Royals.
Yes.
Yeah, because
True.
people like to see that kind of stuff. Anyways, what did you think about it?
It was well produced.
Yeah. It's HBO.
It's always difficult to distill the life of an entire person, especially someone larger than life, like Andre the Giant, into a 90-minute film.
Yeah.
That's always difficult. I thought it was a interesting distillation of his life. Not a whole lot of new material was covered based on previous documentaries, because I've seen the one that WWE did years ago, I think called Larger Than Life. And there was another one I saw. It might have been like an A&E biography or something else. But most of the story beats are pretty well known about his life. Growing up in France.
Yeah.
Starting to wrestle over there. Started wrestling here in North America and Japan. Came to the notice of Vince Sr., signed to WWF. Probably WWF at the time.
Yeah. Or Capital Wrestling.
Yes, that was before that, I think. Company or something like that. He would loan Andre out to various territories. His involvement in the rock and wrestling phase with Hogan, leading all, and then in the latter years of his life being in immense pain.
Yeah.
Due to the wear and tear in his body, and his death at an early age due to a heart attack, I believe.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most humorous aspects of it, and something I didn't know about, is that Andre really thought farts were funny.
Yeah. That does seem to be the... a lot of people are talking about the farting stuff.
Because he was known for years as a prolific drinker. That's not new news.
Yeah.
But they followed that part up with the fact that he liked to fart and thought farts were funny.
Well, they are funny.
And you got to hear Vince say flatulence.
Well, the best thing is that is good. And the best thing you get, and Hulk Hogan, who does a really good job in it, gives his impression of an Andre fart. That was a high point for me. I thought one of the things that was really interesting to me about the piece on the whole was, so last week in last week's Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer does a really good job kind of bringing a lot of the stories that were told in the documentary back down to earth. Dave Meltzer was actually in the documentary. And so just for an example, one that stands out to me, they said, Andre didn't appreciate that Big John Studd used to climb over the top rope, and Andre smartened him up at one point. Well, Dave Meltzer poo-poos that and says that, no, actually, Andre and John Studd were really close. Andre loved him and would do anything for him. And there was some other anecdote about his family, I think, or something like that. What was interesting to me is that instead of the filmmaker sticking to the facts, he allowed those stories to be told, because part of Andre's shtick was, as big as he was a personality, they would always exaggerate it even more. You know, they would say he's a little bit taller than he actually is. You know, instead of 7'1", he was 7'4" or whatever.
And then 7'5", and then instead of being 350, he was 400, and then 500
Right,
pounds.
exactly. There was that one bit where he would pick up the 2,000-pound thing, which was obviously like 100 pounds.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that aspect of it, and I appreciated the fact that Meltzer had a very extensive rundown and talked about the things that sort of brought the man back down to earth, because as Carrie L was put, you know, there was Andre the performer, Andre the Giant, and there was Andre Rusimov, the man.
Yeah.
And the documentary, I thought, did a pretty good job of balancing out those two aspects. And when they would talk about the stuff that really doesn't kind of matter, like, okay, so for example, when Hogan was talking about Andre smartening up Iron Sheik, right? He was like, oh my God, I think he's going to kill him out there. And they show footage, and I'm not sure if that's the match that he's talking about, but it's no different a performance than anything else. It didn't look like he was actually hurting the guy. I mean, any more than you do in pro wrestling anyways. And so I did appreciate that sort of the more florid stories, I guess, the more, you know, the stories that it doesn't really matter if they're exaggerated or outright lies that add to his myth. They were left in there. Vince McMahon had no problem telling him. Hulk Hogan had no problem telling them.
No problem telling. That whole bit about him, you know, going to Vince and saying, "So what's the finish? What's the finish?" And Vince going, "I don't know." And then Hogan seemingly taking a note from what Macho Man and Steamboat did at that same WrestleMania, said he grabbed the legal pad and scripted out the entire match.
Let me ask you this: do you think Hogan scripted out a match like that? I have no reason to think not. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it's just interesting to me that Hogan is a creative mind coming up with these things.
Yeah.
I like that. I like thinking that.
Yeah. But then there's a couple instances in there where they were mentioning about Andre's failing health around the time of that match, and that he wasn't really open about it. And that, I forgot who mentioned it, but someone said that even Hogan wasn't that aware of it going into the match. And then later on, they said that they booked that match to cover up for Andre's, deficiencies in the ring now, because, you know, he was failing health.
Meltzer was talking a lot about that.
So it's an interesting juxtaposition where, you know, as you just brought up, some people, you know, talking about the myth of Andre versus the reality of it. One of those things is the myth and one is the reality, and I'm not sure, you know, it's kind of unclear in certain circumstances which is which. Which I think is a great metaphor for pro wrestling in the first place, you know, and Andre the Giant in the first place, because where does the reality end? Where does the fantasy begin? So on that level, I really appreciate it. There were some things that I wish that they would have gone. Like you said, it's hard to distill one man's life into 90 minutes. Some of the more interesting stuff is, I mean, just because we know a lot of the pro wrestling stuff, but I told you this off camera, I thought the stuff with his daughter, who he didn't really have a relationship with, beyond her mom would take her to the matches and they would visit with him. And she said, you know, I used to sit on his lap, and she said, in my heart, I'm pretty sure that I believe he was a good man. It's just my mom didn't want me on the pro wrestling scene. And then she said she didn't think he did either.
Right, exactly. And that was really, there could be a whole documentary on her, on the daughter alone.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting.
One of the other Andre documentaries I've seen focused a lot more on his friendship with Tim White.
Oh, interesting.
We just talked about a bit in this, but I feel like I forgot which one it was. It might be the WWE one. It was in far greater detail. And that's a really interesting aspect of the story. Yeah, no, it totally is. So I haven't seen that one you're talking about. And I didn't know that Tim White, I mean, because I knew Tim White from, you know, being a referee in the WWE, and of course the weird suicide angle they did with him. And so I never knew that he had a relationship with Andre, but it was definitely the most interesting stuff was the human stuff. And you know, that was all very interesting, and stuff that I hadn't really heard before. But you know, the stuff when Andre would say to Tim White, you know, man, if I could just be you for one weekend, I'd be really happy, because like they made a point of saying, you know, Muhammad Ali could put on a fedora and a trench coat, get in the back of a car, and he could go pretty much unnoticed. Andre obviously could never do that. And so that stuff I thought was interesting. You know, you get glimpses into how, man, you know, his lifestyle, going out and you know, what did he say in that interview? He spent $67,000 on plane tickets,
and then you see pictures of him like
in two seats.
And there was an anecdote about the plane bathrooms never being big enough for him, so they had to put a curtain up
and have him to do his business in a bucket, and they dumped the contents of the bucket into the toilet.
And that was one overriding theme, was just it was an uncomfortable life, and so that really gets you to it. I thought it did a really good job, really humanizing him. But everybody that spoke about him just spoke about him in the especially the cast of The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
Who dealt with him for 10 weeks or whatever it was, just had nothing but glowing things. Like you can tell just in their eyes that, they had warm hearts for the guy.
Yeah. Well, there's a scene towards the end with Vince where he's talking about kind of the falling out he and Andre had because, he more or less said, Andre, we can't have you out there anymore. And Andre, I don't know if he felt betrayed or was just disappointed or what, left.
Yeah.
And then, the interviewer talks to Vince and says, you remember the last time you spoke to Andre? And he goes, no.
Yeah.
I try to, I had this facility to push negative aspects
that was interesting
out of my life. And then shortly after that, he's on the verge of crying.
Yeah.
Thinking about what Andre meant to him.
Yeah.
And it's very rare you see Vince McMahon that vulnerable.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
We always hear various aspects of his personality. We've heard people speak highly of him, say that he's a really loyal, warm. He can be a very loyal, warm guy. But you also hear about him, like flipping out on people and screaming at them. But it's very rare that we see that aspect of him on screen.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And so that was interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting. The Hogan, one of the more interesting bits in terms of the wrestling stuff was Hogan talking about. I mean, granted, who knows about the.
Scripting that match.
Well, I think it wouldn't surprise me if he scripted the match. It was interesting, the story leading up to it, and it felt more like he was asking Vince, do you think Andre's going to go through with this match that we've come up with, as opposed to what's the finish of the match? That's how I interpreted it.
Well, even when he wrote the script out, it said call the finish. There was no finish scripted out.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what Hogan was talking about when he
Andre called it in the ring, slam, and then leg drop.
And on the way down, leg drop.
Yeah, I thought that whole thing, the Mania 3 match, especially the match itself, when it was revealed that Andre was following the script.
That's really well done.
That was really, really well done. That was really interesting stuff. And when Hogan said, I thought he was going to kick out, and he didn't. And that was at 1, 2, 3, and he started to choke up. He had to stop. I thought, because the funny thing about Hogan, and there was even a quote in there towards the end when he said something like, because I made a quip about it. Hogan said something like, Andre just absolutely loved being in the business. And I was thinking to myself, the entire time they just talk about Andre wanting to retire to a farm and how miserable, the travel was and the lifestyle was, and he drinks because he's in pain.
Constant pain. Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, that's the most Hogan thing, because only Hogan would get choked up over a guy who doesn't kick out of the leg drop. That's the most Hogan shit ever, man. He's like, I thought he was gonna kick out. He didn't, and I won the title.
Well, then he said and this is Hogan's covered a lot of this stuff in the other documentaries I've seen about what he was unsure whether Andre was going to go through the finish and so on.
Yeah,
and
we've
so
heard
forth.
that for ages. Yeah.
Yeah. And that Hogan credits that match more than any with establishing Hulkamania as this huge force running wild and all that stuff. And he expounded upon that a bit in this movie as well.
Yeah. So no, I enjoyed it. Like you said, it's an hour and they could do probably an 8-hour documentary series. Ken Burns could do an 8-hour series on Andre the Giant. It'll all be fascinating. But I thought it was good. I enjoyed understanding going in that there was going to be some exaggerations and stories that weren't actually that are more myths than anything that Vince and Hogan continue to perpetuate. And, understanding that that's kind of part of the show,
Yeah.
That's what they do. And I thought it was interesting. I thought it was good. It's definitely worth
definitely check it out. Especially if you're unfamiliar with the story of Andre.
Yeah, and they
Definitely check it
do
out.
amend it. Like one thing that really stood out to me also was the soundtrack, the score against all that old footage was just really masterfully done.
Yeah.
Like it was really, HBO is always so good about that kind of stuff. So yeah, good stuff. Anyways, is
That's
that our
it.
show? Is that
Yeah,
our
I was
show?
trying to see if they have the WB Andre documentary on the network, because that's definitely worth checking out.
Right on. Well, you can search for it too
Yeah.
on your own time. The search engine on there is so booty.
Oh, I'm not searching. I'm just going through the.
Now you're just dicking around. Now you're on a 2012 episode of NXT. That's weird.
That is weird.
Why are you watching a Thunder episode that's main evented by Norman Smiley? I like Norman Smiley. Don't laugh.
I like Norman Smiley too.
Anyways, that's it for the show. Hilton, can we get some music, please?
Dun dun dun.
Thank
dun,
you,
dun,
Hilton.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, crap. It's all loud here now.
Oh no.
There we go. Anyways, that's it for the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, talk to you guys later.
Bye.